Hey there. Well, today I'm going to conduct one last graft, and I wanted to show this demonstration to you. The graft that I'm about to conduct on this is called a bark inlaid graft. Sorry, it's loss of words early morning. A bark inlay graft it's a way of grafting something. It's a bigger tree that I'm dealing with right here, and I want to graft into it. But my scion wood is much smaller than the tree itself. So I'm going to do this in a different way. All the scion wood I have is just about spent, uh, and it's that time of year. Going to have to think about moving on. But anyways, excuse me. Mind you, all my equipment has been sterilized. Brought a little rag out here. It's got sanitizer all over it. And I'm not normally, let's try and see what we can find to fit the scion wood onto. I'm not doing that. But I'm looking at an area to where I might want to graft. And right here, I see a little tiny, what could end up being a bud that'll come out. And there's another one right there. Because what will happen is it'll try the bud out on its own. Without further ado, take my snips and cut it. That tree was a 4-foot tree. That tree was also a root sucker. And when I cut that, I could see it squeeze down on that and caused a mash. And that's the reason why I've always liked to explain, I want to clean that up a little bit. Get her nice and smoothed out. There we go. I dug this up back in March, beginning of March. Could have been the end of February. I treated it like a bare root and planted it in this pot, and it survived what I was doing. Now, what I'm doing here is the cut that I'm making, I'm putting a slight slope on that, just a slight slope. And I'm looking at the coloration of the rootstock itself, and for the most part, I see a lot of good coloration there. And I'm just going to keep cutting at it to get what I want. There. Now if you take a look, you'll see there's a little bit of a slope going down that way. And this is where your sharp tools come in handy. I'm going to come over here to this back side, and I'm just going to cut a slit down very gently. Cut a small slit down the side of that rootstock. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to lift the bark. From where I cut. There we go. You can see that I lifted that bark just ever so slightly. A little bit of discoloration there. Let's try something a little different. Go down a little lower and see what happens. cleaned up again. Bear with me. I'm trying to look closely at what it is I'm working on here, and I want to make sure that I do everything I possibly can to make this right. There. In all honesty, this right here is not one of my favorite grafts. My favorite graft to use is the tongue and whip. I could have came with a bigger scion and did a tongue and whip on this. I think I had some scion that was bigger. I don't know, that's a little bit big. Anyways, let's try this again. I got my slope. I'm going to go ahead and do my slit. And then I'm going to do my separation. A little bit longer slit. I'm going to have plenty of room to work. Got to be gentle with this one. There we go. The bark has been separated from the wood. Now then, I'm going to take my scion and get it ready. Mind you, once again, 2 buds. And with the scion, I'm going to try and make a long, slender cut like I normally do. Nice slender cut. And I'm going to, see how it's jagged right there? I want to square that up. Now she's nice and square. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get my parafilm all prepped. Bark inlay. The thing I can tell you about bark inlay, you can go with even a bigger piece of not scion, I'm sorry, a bigger root stock than this. I've got one out there as an oak tree. It's probably about that big around. But when you get into a bigger one, that one little slit won't do you any good. You'll have to make another slit the same width as the scion that you're working with, and then you just lift that little piece that you did, kind of like with the veneer graft. If you remember right, I had the little lip that hung out. When you're dealing with something bigger, you're going to want that extra slit, and you're just going to want to lift that bark, that slither of bark away from it and tuck behind that. And you want to make sure that it's the same width as the scion that you're using. But we ain't got to do that with this right here because it's smaller. Go ahead and start wrapping up this scion. Mind you, pull the tape down once you've gotten one layer on that scion and go underneath, or that one layer over top of that bud rather. You just want to pull the tape down, go underneath that bud because you've already got a layer on it. You don't want no more than one layer on that because you want to give that bud the opportunity to crack through there. And same right here, I've got one layer on that bud. Now I'm down to where I made my cut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to slide this down behind that bark. Lift it just a hair. Tuck it down in there. And I want to make sure that I'm matching on this edge, in which I am. When I go to mash that together with rubber bands, the contact of the outer and the contact of the inner will make that contact. That way the two cambium layers of the rootstock and the cambium layer of the scion make a connection. Now, I've got one wrap on this bottom bud. I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to bring that tape underneath that bud. And then I'm going to wrap around. It's going to take more tape than what I have right here, because I got quite a bit to cover. The mosquitoes are bad this morning. And I'm going to continue to wrap. Get another piece of tape. And this time I'm not going to stretch the tape as much as I did for the scion. Now, you can see how that's fitted in there. And the one thing that you want to do is you want to make sure this top is covered where that cut is. And the reason why is you don't want that to dry out. You want it to try to keep that as fresh as can be while the two are melding together. So I'm going to come over the top and then I'm going to start to wrap around. And mind you, I'm squeezing the unions together with my fingers as I wrap. You know, over a period of time, that parafilm, it'll rot away and it'll decay on its own. And what will happen is the scion will take off, it'll begin to grow, and it'll actually wrap itself around the top of that rootstock. Now I'm going to get a rubber band on there. I got a broader rubber band than what I normally use because the squeezing of these two together needs to be more stronger than what I normally wrap on seedlings. Come down below. And I'm pulling the rubber band like I have been showing you. I'm squeezing her together tightly. Now mind you, I went down below that cut with the parafilm. I want to cover up the entire cut to make sure that it's sealed back together, because that will heal itself right back together. That cut will, that is. And this is just another way of grafting. Like I said, my favorite grafting technique is the tongue and whip. And the reason behind that is tongue and whip, you get much better contact between the rootstock and the scion wood. You see I've wrapped it down, now I'm coming right back up, and I'm almost to the point that I want to go ahead and get this tied off. Stick my finger in there, tuck that tag in, and there I have it. I've already got a tag made for this. Sticker on here real quick. That too was an overlease piece of scion. Now, and just to show you, this is what I had cut off. That's an awful lot of growth right there that I had cut off. And like I said, that tree was about a 4-foot tree. And all that energy was feeding this. Well, now all the energy coming from this is going to feed this. I contemplated whether or not to do that with this because this, like I said, it was a root sucker, root shoot that came out of the ground. And I dug it up about the end of February, beginning of March, and treated it like a bare root and planted it in here. And I wanted to wait, but for demonstrational purposes, I thought, you know what? With all the energy that this has to offer, if it can feed all that, why couldn't it feed that little stem? And I checked it. It's pretty solid down in the dirt as far as set. There's probably a lot of root fibers starting to grow in there because I used the rooting hormone whenever I transplanted it. And it's been doing very well. I dug 4 of them up, and all 4 of them have awakened up just like that one. But that one right there was probably the most healthiest one and the largest one out of the bunch. Pawpaws are amazing little trees to work with. Well, y'all have a good day. If you like what you see, subscribe. And don't forget to click on that bell for notifications. Y'all have a God bless day.